Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Supernatural Substation. It's Friday, the 17th of November. I'm your host, Alyne Pustanio, and with me is my co host, Bernadine Richardson. Say hello, Bernadine.
Hey guys, did y'all
Yeah,
miss us from last week? We had a great show last week.
we had a great show, and people
Yeah,
keep watching it on our YouTube channel, and I'm happy about it.
yeah,
Well, everybody loved Misty, and if you missed it, you can go watch it on our YouTube channel. Misty Gaither was our guest, and yeah, it was an extraordinary show, and I can't wait to have her back on.
yeah.
Tonight we don't have a guest for you guys, but however, we are going to dive into a topic that we kind of have talked about a lot, especially in relation to like dangerous things in the supernatural exploration field or the paranormal field. And that's attachments and people getting attachments and all. But before we do that, how are you tonight, Bernadine?
I'm doing great. I'm
Good.
doing great and ready for the holidays.
Yeah, everybody's getting ready for the holidays. Definitely. Got my turkey. I got it. It's sitting in the fridge.
Don't know
The
how to
freezer.
do the turkey thing.
Wait, what?
I don't know how to cook a turkey.
Truth or dare? Truth or consequences? It's pretty easy when they have the instructions on it. But I mean, I do know how, but I have to follow the directions every year. It's a long process. You can't just throw it up in there.
Well,
Say here, you
my
have to
first turkey
defrost it.
I did was last year, and I called, I think it was Danny. I'm like, how do you cook this crazy thing? Because I'm not a big cook. I can bake anything, but cooking, no. So I
You're
stuck
good.
it in the it was an electric pot thingy, big deal I have. And I put it in there and he's like, "Well, did you take the stuff out of the middle?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Well, you have to stick your hand in the middle and pull this bag thing out." I'm like, "What?" So they have these plastic things on the feet. So I'm like,
Yeah,
what the
that's
heck
to
is
hold the
that?"
legs together. Yeah,
Well, yeah, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. It was still frozen.
you have to
It was
look. I
really
did that.
bad.
I did that once because I was rushing. I forgot to. I didn't. It wasn't both cavities that I forgot to empty. It was just one. But and it just cooks. I mean, the paper doesn't burn or anything in it, but it's the neck and the gizzards, and all the pieces that you need, like if you're going to make gravy or you put it in your stuffing to put back into the first thing you got to do is defrost the thing.
Yeah.
So that takes, I don't know, I guess we're getting turkey 101 here, but you do it in cold water for like, I don't know, you put it in your refrigerator 2 or 3 days ahead of when you're going to cook it. And then you take it out like the day before and you let it in like a cold water bath. I know that much. And then you clean all that out. And I cook it for the dogs. You can boil it and cook it for the dogs, and then you
Oh.
just cook the thing according to how much it weighs. You can look online, Butterball. Now it's
Well,
like,
everything's on YouTube these days.
yeah, you can do anything, anything. But mine is waiting for that. It's in the freezer. So if you decide to tackle one this year, let me know, and you can always text me. it can
Well,
get
I'm fighting
it
them
can get a
turkeys
little
in the front yard
supernatural.
because cooking it is not gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I can cook
well, it's pretty
Italian food. I cannot cook Cajun food to save my
well.
life.
Well, you could fry it. I wouldn't suggest it though, but I mean, you can't. Yeah, you could fry it, but some people have set their entire houses on fire with even frying it
Oh,
outside. The grease goes everywhere, and I don't like it. Everybody says it's good, but I don't like it. So. But well, anyway, we're heading into it, the holiday season, and that's going to be already next week.
I
Next week,
know it
I can't
seems
believe
like
it.
so fast.
The year has gone by. But
Yes.
I was telling you, I was on YouTube and I was looking at some stuff and I came across this documentary. I had seen it a couple of years ago because I noticed I had liked it. and it's called The Undeparted, and it's on a YouTube channel, and I don't have the guy's name in front of me that does it, but it's the channel is called Undeparted, and I watched it, and I remember it used to be, I'm sorry, it was about this particular antique store that was located in a place called Sand Hill, and I don't know if that's New York or wherever, but it tells you in the documentary. But it's an antique store in a house that this woman's family had had for a couple of generations, and they were having a lot of problems. It was an old house, built in like the sometime in the 1800s. So by the time I think her great great grandparents are the ones that actually built the house, and in the time in between, they had added on to the house. They put it was like a total of two additions, and then some stuff they changed. Like built some barns and stuff. And anyway, when it came down to her, she decided to open an antique store in it. And for a little while, she lived there until she bought another house. And it's full of antiques. And we've said in the past, people think we're crazy, but most people who know what they're talking about realize that everything comes with a history. If it's an antique, I mean, I'm very funny about antiques because you don't
especially
know,
yours.
yeah, you don't know what's happened, what it's witnessed, what was attached, the attachments that were poured into it, like for instance, like a hope chest. We always hear the bride who didn't get married or whatever and was crying and all. Well, sometimes that really did happen, and they kept their trousseau and their wedding dress in hope chest, and if it all didn't work out, or the future husband died or whatever, all that grief and everything went into that wood, into that piece of furniture. And this woman, and her partner were surrounded by this all day. And already at the location, there was already paranormal or supernatural activity going on at the location. And there were a whole bunch of things, drawers opening, keys going missing and being found 2 floors upstairs, kicked under something upstairs. Typical stuff. And they had the ghosts of children, and they had a woman who was probably in this woman's family, and basically saw her like as a mother figure. And these were the benign ghosts. You'd hear them walking, laughing, or while the woman worked, the female ghost would watch her work and want to spend time with her. So but they got down to there's like a cellar, not like a finished out basement. It's an old cellar, and as it turned out, something really bad went on down there. I mean, there was a murder, um, apparently, and they said it was like a tormenting type murder. So it was really bad energy that was down there. And the filmmaker, was a typical skeptic. He didn't believe in it, and it all started when they went there. He took his wife to this store, and she found a table that she wanted, and they didn't decide right away. Then they went back, and they decided to get it. And the woman said, "Do you want some sage with that to take home?" And they were both like, "What?" you know. And that's how it started with him. And they did. He said, "I'm a skeptic, but we did sage it. we did sage the table because his wife insisted." So that's how he started looking into it. When he went back to talk to the woman about it, he made this film. And in it, there's a couple of, it's not gangbusters that he captured, any kind of evidence that's like nothing like you see on these shows. Okay. But there is one scene where they had a static camera set up because they were going to film somebody who was going to come and sit in a chair. Like they set it up in a room just sort of to frame it from the other room, and they had the chair. They were ready and waiting for the guy to come, and the camera, unattended, while they were somewhere else, filmed the chair rocking back and forth, just moving. It's just a regular like kitchen chair, wooden chair, and it moved on its own, and nobody was around. They were waiting. They had just turned the camera on to get the shot. That,
Mhm.
and then he himself got locked in a bathroom that he had just unlocked the door, one of the little hook and eye locks, and it locked back. So
Oh,
he, decided I'm going to make this documentary about it. And he ended up bringing in a medium and another girl who is a practicing druid, and together they identified the spirits. They had to pass them on. It ended up they have a portal in the basement or in the cellar. They have a portal where they come and go. And then he showed drone shots of it, the location. Did high shots, and it's at a triple crossroads, not a typical four crossroads. It's at a triple crossroads, which is a little bit more, well, it's a little bit more supernatural at a triple crossroads than it usually is at the regular, four corner one. Triple is unique to, well, witchcraft and the goddess of witches. And he got EVP. He got, stuff. And by the end of the thing, he was a believer. And the mediums basically identified that the woman had attachments. They were bringing him to the new house. And she basically said they come in with the furniture. They're there with the house and the land. It was to the point where they, in the EVP, they did the interview with the guy that sat in the chair that had moved, and whatever the entities were doing, they messed up the sound entirely. And all that was left of the sound was broken up bits. But when he put the broken up bits together, it was the spirit was talking, basically saying we're still here. Something basically about the woman, we're with her or something like that. And it was like amazing. He was amazed because he's never had that happen. And he was kind of scared by it, so he wanted to tell the woman who owned the place. He said, well, I'm not, the medium says, don't do it there. Take her away from the house because they're listening. They can hear. So he did that. He took her up the road a little bit, still on their or adjacent to their property. He tells her what the message said, and she couldn't really, he played it for her and she couldn't hear it. So they decided to walk to his car and go sit in the car. And the next minute, right as they walked away, this huge oak tree broke in half and fell down right where they had been. So this was the spirit that was in the house, the really bad spirit that was in the cellar. So everything in there had to be cleansed and moved and changed. And so, finding that, I mean, you and I have often talked about coming home with attachments, going on paranormal investigations and bringing something home. And I think you mentioned something about it recently, which I'm going to recommend everybody go watch that movie on his channel, The Undeparted. But in real life, you've had this happen, right? You've had people go home with attachments.
yes, and I've come home with one actually. Well, a spirit. I wouldn't call it an attachment, but I've had an attachment that I didn't know I had for years. You know how they
Mm-hmm.
say sometimes the voice in your head is not your own, or
Yeah.
your thoughts are not your own.
Mm-hmm.
I could distinguish that now, but back then I couldn't. I've had spirits come home from investigations with me, and we do pray and, you know, try to have protection, but it's not guaranteed. You know,
Right.
we had I was doing an investigation, and I think it was Erath, and the reason we were doing the investigation was because this male spirit would get in the bed with women that would stay there. It was a camp, and stay there, and it would spoon them at night,
Mm.
like sleep behind you
Mm-hmm.
and back of you and spoon you. Well, it did that to quite a few women that would stay at the camp, and it would scare them. So we did the investigation,
No, really?
and the next day, okay, the next day it's broad daylight, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and my ex-husband now, he was he was somewhere. No one was in the house. My dog was outside the door. Uh, my bedroom, it was lit up. It was daylight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna take a nap. Doors closed. I'm alone. sleeping. I had just fallen asleep, and I feel somebody get in the bed and spoon me.
Oh no.
And I open my eyes, and I always tell my investigators, do not curse at them, don't provoke it, but I don't take my own advice sometimes. So I'm like, get the, off of
Huh?
me. And I jump out the bed, nobody's there.
Oh my
But
God.
I felt the bed go down because I actually thought, well, maybe it's my husband getting in the bed and was gonna spoon me. And
Mm.
he knows, don't wake me up because I'm a crazy person. Don't wake me up. So, but it wasn't him. No one was there and the door was still closed.
Uh-uh.
So after I threw a temper tantrum with the spirit, I never had a problem with it again. But, sometimes they can follow you home. But a spirit attachment was something internal,
Yeah.
like something in my head. And I would talk to myself and just weird stuff started happening. And other people notice it before you notice it yourself sometimes,
Hmm. Yeah.
like personality will change. Well, I don't know if you gave it to me or somebody gave it to me. It was a prayer ritual where I would say it was a Catholic ritual because we did the Catholic prayer and you use your chakras and the olive oil and the things in the bath water. It was a bath ritual.
That wasn't me. Yeah, no,
It
I don't
wasn't you. Well,
know.
I did that ritual, and you're supposed to do it every Sunday for so many weeks.
Yeah.
So I did the first time I did it, it worked. Like I was in the bath and I'm relaxed and I'm just clearing my mind and all, did
Hmm.
my prayers and all that. Well, I'm in the tub and it felt like somebody reached in my chest and pulled something out.
Mm.
So I started screaming for my husband, he come
Yeah.
running in there, what's wrong? And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't I film myself in the tub doing this? Because I could have captured some kind of evidence.
Yeah. You would be
That's
thinking.
what I was thinking paranormal. So yeah. So yeah, that happened.
Well,
That
wait.
actually
Where,
happened.
where did that come from?
Where did
Where do
the
you,
attachment
where
come
do you
from?
think the attachment came from?
Uh, I
Not the
couldn't tell.
spooner. Not the spooner guy.
Don't know the actual attachment. I probably had that for years and just didn't realize I had an attachment till I learned about attachments and realized that's what I had. But a lot of people don't know they have an attachment. I didn't know it was an attachment.
You just think it's a personality thing.
Right.
That happens. I think, paranormal investigators often think like they don't think it outright, but there's this kind of feeling that, well, I know what I'm doing and I know what to be aware of. And
Mhm,
this isn't going to happen to me because I know A and B, right? C, it's not going to happen to me. But
mhm.
a lot of times, they're just the perfect ones for spirits to attach.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I didn't know that
you know
happened.
how we grew up with all the, things going on in our families, the rituals and
Mm-hmm.
seances and voodoo and all this stuff we had to grow up into. And that's probably where I might have got that. And it was
Yeah.
just with me all my life and, didn't surface up
Aw.
until I realized it.
So you're not the same person that you used to be?
No, I'm not.
Aw. I loved hearing your adventures.
Oh, I still have adventures. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I know the difference now. Back then, I didn't know the difference.
So
But
what is
we
the difference? Like now
different.
you know in retrospect, but what is the difference?
My mind's clearer.
Mhm.
Yeah, before it's like I had two people in there thinking constantly, dwelling on things, getting mad at things I wouldn't normally get mad at,
Mhm.
people that would normally, you know, want to attack.
Hmm.
Mentally, I'm a lot better than I used to be
That's
since
why.
the attachment's gone.
That's wild. See,
Yeah.
like you talk about things that that happened when we were growing up and everything, and I've said it in my book, and I've spoken about it. My mom was into all kind of occult stuff, but first, and well, it was sort of like basically the basic ESP and the sort of Hans Holzer ghost thing, and then it went into this meditation stuff that was all big in the 70s. That really blew up in the 70s, and astral projection is the other one, and sitting there and reciting mantras. And I think a lot of the stuff that came to her, that got drawn to her, drawn to where we live, came through that more so than any kind of like haunting stuff. Opening yourself up through meditation is just, like turning on a light out there in the outlaw country and saying, open for business, just come on through this door. And thinking back, my mom was volatile. She was Italian and she had a temper, and she was a typical Italian woman. But some of the times, some of the arguments, some of the things that happened, it just didn't seem like her. It was not characteristic of her. She was never mean or cruel uh in her nature, but she would do and say mean and cruel things. And, now I can see, when you're 10 and 11 years old and 12 years old, you can't figure out, you just think, and you've got your own thing. You're an adolescent, and you're like, well, she's just being a bitch, she's a bitch and I'm mad. But when you look back at it after, you realize, and after I learned and started studying about what, the after effects of just being in paranormal investigations, having tarot card readings, practicing, yoga, manifestation, all of this opens you up to a spirit world, and if you give them an inch, they're going to take a foothold and they're going to be with you. They're going to stay with you, especially if the staying is good and there's a lot of volatile energy and stuff, to feed on. Um,
And
but
children are the weakest link, when they're
yeah.
put in those situations.
Yeah, and you have all that adolescent and prepubescent energy going on, which a lot of people ascribe to, as being the cause for poltergeist activity and all. So that's all going on, and then you shift gears and you become a born again Christian, like my mom did, and then whoa, hold on, because now they're against you too. Now they certainly did not like that, and it's all experiential. And I think back at the things, the thoughts you have, and the things that are going on, and depression and stuff like that. And it was just not a nice way to grow up. And as I grew up, I mean, we started to hear about, when you read about paranormal and mostly ghosts. I was always interested in ghost stories and stuff like that. And there's a couple of books I read, even in Hans Holzer's books, talk about the furnishings and the objects that things can become attached to. And around that time, I used to wear this cross. I grew up in the 70s, so it was all it was all Led Zeppelin. I was ahead of my class, kind of. And, I mean, everybody that grew up in the 70s knows what I'm talking about. And so, I would wear all kind of jewelry and stuff. But I had this cross that I got somewhere in the French Quarter, and it kind of looked like, two pieces of pipe, like very not big. It was about 1 inch, 1.5 inches in the main, the main part of the cross, and then maybe a 1 inch on a cross it. And I used to wear it, and when I put it on, that's I would have the same experience as you were talking about. I would feel bad. I would want to fight. I would be down on myself, depressive. I would get sick, like just sick to the stomach. And, I mean, this is all going on. And
That's
when
a
I
lot
take
of
it off,
energy in that cross.
yeah, I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it. And then my mom had a psychic come to the house because of everything that was going on. And her name was Laurie. Dr. Laurie. I can't remember her last name. And she came in to do like her walkthrough. She just came in and she zeroed in right on. I was standing when you went in. You always came in our side door. That we weren't like front door people, so you came in the side door, and I was standing when you walked into the kitchen. There was like this sort of island, this kitchen island that kind of stuck out, typical 70s, and that's where we put all our stuff. You walk in and you put your purses. It was a clutter zone.
Mm.
And I was standing on the other side of that in the den, and she was talking for a minute, and then her eyes got on me, and she walked over to me, and she grabbed this cross, and she said, "This has to go." And she tried to pull it off of me, and I was just like, "What?" She says, "This has got to go. This has to go now." And so I took it off, and she took it. She took it away. I never saw it again. And after that, I mean, I wasn't like suicidal or having these depressive thoughts or wanting to run away and hitchhike to California. And all that left me with
Mhm.
that when she took that away. And I know, like I said, I never saw it again. And then she did some sort of, honestly, I couldn't tell you what it was. She did, I guess she prayed over me and did some sort of aura cleansing. And it was much better. I mean, I was more angst than I actually was. I was a teenage angst, but that was like angst to the max whenever I had that thing on, and I just don't understand. But I do now. I didn't understand then, but I do now. And
Like I said, sometimes your thoughts are not your own, and you don't realize it that it's something else.
right, and if it's
You
there
know,
long enough, you're doing what it wants you to do. You're going where it wants you to go, and you're basically its puppet. Um, there's a whole in my book I talk about Dr. Carl Wickland, who did his one major work was 30 Years Among the Dead. And what he did with that was he was basically people who they thought were crazy and were in mental institutions, either for multiple personality disorder or schizophrenia, or basically crazy, just doing the typical, and some people that were going to be put in there for life. He would do sessions with them, put them under hypnosis, and 9 times out of 10, there were attachments, and he would get in touch with the attachments. And it would be the weirdest thing. It would be like in one instance, somebody went past a location where the spirit had just died, like an apartment building, and the spirit was confused, and somebody just walked by and they said, "Well, I'll go home with her," and went
mhm,
home with her. And then under hypnosis, the spirits that came forward would say, "You need to stop this person, whoever they're attached to. You need to stop this person from following me around. You need to stop. Every time I look at the mirror, this person's there." And not realizing their spirits, they have died or whatever has happened to them, now they're spirits. And well, they have to die to be spirits, but you know what I mean. And they're like, "You got to get rid of this person. They follow me everywhere. I'm embarrassed." And then they want to fight with the person, and that caused illness and people mental problems and everything, because the spirit was in there fighting them in a physical fight with the spirit of the person constantly. So he found this. I mean, the majority of the cases that he found, he said that you would be surprised how many people that have been committed to institutions really have these spirit attachments. And wherever you
I
have
work in the
spirit,
institute.
yeah, they institutionalize, and then the fun starts because they're all in there with attachments. The institution itself has attachments. It's
When I
just,
was working there, I can feel the difference between, people who are mentally ill and people who have attachments or even possession.
mm-hmm,
You run across a lot of people like that. And, I asked one of the doctors one time, I said, what if some of these people are not mentally ill at all? What if they have spirit attachments or, they're possessed? And he's like, well, that's not a diagnosis, so we can't use that. So what they do is medicate them,
yeah,
only
yeah,
hold them for so long, they send them home. They stop taking their medications to listening to the voices, and they end up right back where they, were before. But attachments, it people have different types of attachments, and normally it's, you know, human attachments, spirits
Yeah.
that have passed on. If a person has a gambling addiction and they die and they don't cross over or go where they're supposed to go in their spirit form, and they stay here, they're gonna most probably find another person that has a gambling addiction,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
much to them, because they feel the adrenaline rush that the
Mm-hmm.
person felt, just like a drug addict, just like an alcoholic, just like a
Yeah.
person that had toxic behaviors, and that all they try to find someone that has what they need. It's like they're fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They
They
feel that
live, they
energy, they feel that high,
feed. Yeah, they feed off of them vicariously.
and the
Um,
only way to get rid of it is to stop the problem
well,
that they're there for.
casinos are full of ghosts,
Oh,
spirits that are attached because of their addiction to the excitement of gambling. Heroin addicts, fentanyl, if you survive it, any kind of, addiction to drugs, they're all around them. This is why the people who go among the homeless and stuff like that. I heard one. There's a psychic called Sloan Bella, and she was talking about, she lives outside of Los Angeles, and she was talking about having to drive from her house to somewhere across town, but having to go the way that she went down by Skid Row in LA, and and they call it Skid Row unapologetically, but at the time and right now, they're full of just homeless. But she could feel the energy as she was approaching it, and driving through it, she said, was like driving through hell, because obviously she's psychic. And then as soon as you like put it behind you, and she would be in her mind, in her spirit, saying, hell no, you're not coming in my car, you stay right where you are, you stay right here. I feel sympathetic for you, but you can't come with me, until she got past the whole thing. And there's just a lot of people, like, they'll have interviews with Skid Row. Skid Row in LA became kind of like infamous because of the Cecil Hotel and the story about Elisa Lamb, the woman that they found in the water cistern up on top of the Cecil Hotel. So it got kind of into the public eye that way. And a lot of people already knew there was a problem, but it was kind of contained to a certain amount of people, I guess, in California. But it became a big deal, and people would go down there. Thrill seekers, they would go down to go to the Cecil Hotel, and they talk about it. It's like they couldn't stand the energy around here. It's not, not like, oh my God, there's all these homeless people. It was like, I can't stand the feeling of being down here, and just coming because they were like legend tripping, or something, and wanting to stay at the Cecil and go in the footsteps of Elisa Lam, which that's a whole thing. We've talked about that in a show that we had on UPRN in the past. So there's a whole supernatural side to that, which, we can talk about in another show. But the whole idea of feeling it, and these people, these poor homeless people, um, they're they're full of attachments. They are full of you see them now in videos where they're standing there and they're bent over, or they're looking at the sky and all, and you can almost just see the spirits that are just feeding on that. And when somebody
yeah,
overdoses,
zombie.
yeah, yeah, like you're a zombie, but there's a lot of life, a lot of spirit activity going on. And then as soon as, if they overdose, they die, or they die of some other, they're killed, or then they see all these spirits that were there. They see them, but they're no more used to those spirits, and they become one of them. And you see this, where they glom back on to the living who are still in that situation, and that's well known. That's well known. Suicides, when somebody out of the blue starts having a compulsion to kill himself, and they're, just out of the blue, like life is fine, everything's going fine, there's no real reason. It's usually because somebody's, spirit has come across them, or something else has happened psychically somewhere. And around every suicide, there are spirits going, do it, do it, do it. And as soon as that person becomes self-aware on the other side, they see these spirits laughing at them, that they've convinced, they've ruined another another person. They've gained another spirit, because
Mhm.
that's all they wanted, was to go ahead and see if they could make them do it and feed off the energy and all. And, suicides are condemned to stay for whatever the length of their life was supposed to be. So they're stuck out there, and they begin looking. I mean, it's a vicious cycle because of the materiality, because of, you got to live on earth, and it's the material plane, and
Mhm.
everything comes through here and goes to the other side. So there's a lot of spirits that don't want to go. They just want to be here. They just want to be and be
Mhm.
attached to you, but there's a whole bunch of them that have no idea why. There's also the problem, like, is in prisons too. It's a terrible thing. There's a video out there, and I don't know, it might be at that prison in New Mexico, but I don't think it is. I think it's from a Mexican prison, and it's a closed circuit TV of a row of cells, and there's a guy hanging out, with his arms out, and apparently he's talking to another inmate, like across, maybe down the hall and across from him. And he moves. I don't know. Have you seen this one? He moves, and behind him, you see this shadow thing on all fours
Uh-huh.
crawl, like, behind him, like suddenly the light kind of, like, he just moved to the side a little bit to his left, and this thing was like partly under the cot, and it moved as soon as he moved, it crawled toward him to stay with him, basically to stay
Oh.
in his shadow.
Mhm.
And that is repeated hundreds of times in every prison. Every prison is like that, all of those
Just the
criminals
energy
in.
in each cell from the cellmate.
Yeah, yeah. There
And
was, same
depression,
psych,
anger.
same psychic, Sloan Bella said, she did something on Jeffrey Epstein, and she was just kind of reading the energy around the whole thing, and she said that, we all know what happened to him, and I don't want to get any kind of strike on YouTube, but we all know what happened. But she said that they had put a guy into his cell, to share the cell with him, because they were quote unquote scared he was going to commit suicide or do something else. So they gave him a cellmate, and she said that the cellmate demanded to be let out. He demanded to be let out because he could not be anywhere near this guy. You may hear my dog in the background. I'm sorry, guys. Couldn't be anywhere near him. He said that the energy coming off of Epstein was unbearable. It was pure evil. It was just pure evil coming off of him. And it's interesting that he would feel that, and it wouldn't be able to be hid anymore, because that's basically all Epstein was at that point. He was just those attachments, and they'd had their day with him, and now, this other guy was sitting there, and she said the guy demanded to be let out of the cell. And so basically that's part of the reason he got left in there alone, because they took that guy out, but they hadn't decided who was going to go in there, and in the intervening time was when the suicide happened. So, but he was like, get me out. And he was a lifer. He was like this hard ass, hardcore criminal, and he was scared to death of what was popping off of Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, he just was like, let me out. I can't be in here. I don't want it on me.
Well,
And
just
so
think of
people.
all the attachments associated with murderers,
Hmm.
and some of them may have just been like walk-ins.
Yeah.
So
Was.
that and they don't remember what happened, some of them,
Hmm.
because it was a walk-in, it happened, then they
Sorry,
walk
my
back out, and
barking.
now they have to spend life in prison with the other attachments.
Yeah, forever. I mean, until they die or whatever. I
Mhm.
mean, Jeffrey Dahmer was one of those. And Jeffrey Dahmer said he didn't know why he did what he did. He
Oh,
didn't remember doing half of the stuff that they said he did, except they showed him the evidence. It was like an entirely other person was doing the horrible things. I'm not exonerating him, in
well,
any
kinda
way.
like the guy, what's his name on, the Amityville Horror?
Yeah,
Uh,
DeFeo. Was it Ronald
yeah,
DeFeo? Yeah,
DeFeo,
yeah,
because he didn't remember all that happened either in the house.
yeah. he's dead now. I think he
Family.
died, but he had a couple of different stories going around. But I believe that he was telling the truth when he said it wasn't me. I don't remember. I blacked out. And because that is supported in Wickland's research, where they just black out, they step forward and they take over and they suppress the personality of the person that they're attached to. They just push it down, and then that person comes back and it's like, this is terrible. What did I didn't do this. I don't remember. Unfortunately, in a court of law and according to police, you did this and here's the evidence. But, it's interesting that you bring up the Amityville Horror, because a lot of what went on um, with George Lutz, he's not a sympathetic character anymore. Not even if he's played by James Brolin on the movie. He's really not. It's there. Things have come to light that he was into the occult. He was into, especially he had gotten his wife, was her name Kathleen, into transcendental meditation, and there is some opinion out there that he bought that house because there had been murders in it, and because the spirit activity, he knew that there would be spirit energy in that house that would facilitate his transcendental meditation, and because he was into the occult as well. And he is reported to have said that in that house, for the first time, he and Kathy were meditating, and they actually levitated in the house. They actually levitated off the ground in the house. And then they were crying and screaming because all this crap was going on. you know, they're crying and screaming. And I'm like, you fool. Because Raymond Buckland himself, the man who did all the magic, I mean, he's got books and books and books. He had a cult shop right there on Long Island. And George Lutz was in there all the time, buying books, looking at books, and all this other stuff. So he was into that stuff. And he bought that house for that reason, because he knew murders have happened in this house. There's got to be energy in this house that I can tap into. And he did. And not only getting back to, because my mom, I always go back to furniture and stuff, but when they bought the house, they bought a lot of the furniture that was left there by the previous family. Oh, I'm sorry, my dog's barking. The DeFeo family left furniture there, and they kept it. They I don't know, some, it was the beds that they put their children in, were left up in the room. And
That's where they got killed, right?
yeah, where they got killed, it was the
In
frames.
the
They had
bed.
cleaned them. Of course, they took the mattresses and everything, but would you put your child in the bed like that? I
No,
mean,
blood
no.
spatter on the wood.
Yeah, but well, they cleaned it as best they could, but they got it was like for like a, I don't know, it was just, I was thinking that they paid extra for it, but they didn't. It was just given to them as part of the deal with the house. So they're like, sure, sofas, some other furniture. I would not, first of all, I wouldn't be in the house, but I'd be saying, hell no, get that crap out of here. Get it gone, because it's gonna be full of that energy, not just blood going on it, but all the energy into it leading up
Yeah,
to. You're going to hear some panting, folks. My dog is now in the room with me. Valkyrie.
Valkyrie.
Valkyrie. She's in the room, folks. But yeah, that's part of what created such a problem there. Was all of his experimentation with the occult, and he went into this furnace of an atmosphere, and just lit it up even more by doing this. People talk about transcendental. That's a good way to get attachments, is through meditation and astral projection. When your spirit is out of your body, anything could happen. Anything at all. Your body's there, it's defenseless, you're not in it, and it's a shell. You're going to go back in it, hopefully. I've always said I've never really liked the idea of astral projection.
Yeah, I think we leave our bodies, you know, like unwillingly
Hmm.
when we sleep or whatever, we go wherever. But because I remember one night I was above my house and I looked down and I seen the house. And I'm like, oh crap. So right when I got lucid, when I snapped out of it, my spirit just went right back into my body. And you know how you jump when
Hmm.
somebody wakes you up, or in the middle of a sleep you jump? I think that's when
Yeah.
it goes back in your body. But some people do astral projection, um, like they practice to do it,
Yes. Yeah,
or
they actually do. I
try
had,
to make their spirit leave their body. Now I think that's dangerous.
yeah. Oh, that's the most dangerous kind of astral projection is when you're willingly doing it and, you're out there trying to explore other planes of existence and all,
Mm,
knowing what you know about how close spirits are to you. It's never recommended that, that you should engage in that. I was going to say that I had a friend who had an experience. This was way back when I was in high school. She regularly, she didn't do it intentionally. She would have these astral projection experiences, and she told me that one night she left her body and went like flying, I guess, over the city and
mhm,
went to different spots, and she went to where her high school was, where she went to high school, and she literally floated down to the sidewalk and was almost like lucid and present right there.
mhm,
It seemed, hold on, it seemed very real, just like what my dog just did.
mm,
Oh Lord. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? She's worse than a child. um she landed on the cement near her near her high school, and she was aware of a conversation going on, and just like it was around the bend, out of sight, but it was near right in front of her high school, and she heard two guys arguing, and then a fight happened, and then the guy says, "I'm going to stab you," and she was trying the whole time to leave. Like, she described it as, "I'm trying to fly, I'm trying to wave my arms so I could go," and she couldn't go until she got like really afraid, that because she heard a scuffle, she heard him fighting, and then she heard somebody running toward her. So I don't know if the fear did it or whatever. She went away and she got back in her body like right away, just like that.
mhm.
Well, like 2 days later, she heard that somebody had been stabbed in front of her high school. Like, she
Oh,
was there when
yeah,
it
right
happened, that
there.
they were looking for the guy that stabbed whoever the other guy was in front of her high school, you know?
You
And because she
couldn't
was
do
asking, "How do
it.
I stop this?" And I don't remember what the answer was.
Oh,
I don't remember because, it was part of all that new agey, newy gooey stuff that my mom was into. And she was asking my mom, "How do I stop this?" And then whatever my mother told her, I can't remember because I was like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know. At that time, I was just like, this is all BS. All this is doing is causing me to deal with the demons that are in the house. So I didn't remember. I think you just need to, probably what she did was she learned to control it or manage it, the older you get. If it's something that you're going to do, it's just something that you're going to do. It's just something that's part of your makeup, and this is an ability that you have. So maybe later she could manage it more, and she talked less and less about it because I think that really scared her. Before that, there was intention in doing it, though. I know she liked it. She liked
it's like
being the one.
remote viewing, isn't that the same thing?
Wait, what?
Remote viewing?
Yeah, that is it's sort of the same thing. Although I think you stay, you stay mentally. I mean, you stay stationary. Your spirit stays stationary in your body, and you attempt to make a connection, an energetic connection to whatever the target is or whatever you're trying to see. So that's a little bit different, but that always stuck. And she told me once she ran into a brick wall.
Oh.
You think you should stop? It's like, I don't know how to stop, and I was like, well, I'm the same age as you and I can't tell you what to do. I was
Well,
dealing with my own things keeping me up at night. Nobody wanted to sleep over at my house. She would do all that, but she wouldn't sleep over.
oh, yeah. We're gonna have to get in touch with her, see if she still has her ability.
No, I don't know. Hey, I haven't talked to you in 30 or 40 years. Do you still astral project? I don't know about that. It was just I always remembered it because she was like I always wondered what would have happened if the guy would have come around the corner. What would he have seen? Would he would he have ran right through her? That probably
Mhm.
would have been the result. He would just not have seen her and just run like through her spirit and all. But she managed to escape, and she didn't talk about it. It started to decrease the idea of her being so special that she could do it. She was kind of like getting afraid, and
Mhm.
so I guess that's naturally what happens. But at least when your senses start kicking in and you grow up, you're like, I don't think I should be doing this anymore. Of course, that's a
Yeah.
lot of things from high school and stuff. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be doing this anymore. It's either illegal or dangerous. So no. But in the same house, and I wanted to say this when I was talking about the uh the cross. Another friend, my friend in high school, her mother had one of those 1940s style vanities with the big round mirror and the
Yeah.
low, the low shelf and then the seat and all that. Well, she kept the seat, but they gave me the vanity. I don't know why they were moving. It was in a move, and she had gotten all new furniture. And I was like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
that's
I
nice.
want this. This is great." One of these old things. Well, they got it. I got it, and moved it into my bedroom, and I began to have just bad feelings about it. But I put it off to I just attributed it to something else with the house. The house was haunted and some other spirit, something else was happening. And eventually, though, I was like, I can't have this thing in here. Okay. It would make noise at night, like something was crawling around or knocking around in the drawers. And I was like, I can't have it. It was my dad. Oh, God darn it. God damn it. We moved it back here. I said, I need it to go out on the patio, get it out of here. Eventually what happened was before we moved it, the last thing that happened, um, I moved my stuff out of it because I knew I was going to move it outside. And then I was going through the drawers to make sure that I didn't forget anything. And I found, of all things, uh, one of those old fashioned watches with the chain on it, the old kind with the chain. Only it didn't have a chain. It was just the old style watch. Flip, pocket watch. You
Mhm.
flipped it open in the drawer of the thing. It came from nowhere. It wasn't ours. I didn't know where it came from. I didn't know. Nobody came in my house to put it there, and I had no idea. So I didn't immediately say anything about it. I had it, and I was like, "Well, I don't want it in my room." So I went back to that island that we had in the kitchen, and we had the junk drawer. Everybody had a junk drawer, so I threw it in the junk drawer. And we moved the thing outside, and I went back looking for the thing, the watch, and the watch was gone. I
Oh,
found somebody's pocket watch in the drawer. And now a pocket watch would be well before the 1940s when this thing was constructed. I don't know where it came from, and I don't know where it went. It came from the drawer, it went into another drawer, and it disappeared into the house. Some spirit took it, they took it back. So furniture, like we were saying at the beginning, furniture and just things that are in people's houses for a long time, it doesn't need to
mhm.
be like a test that you killed
Yeah.
somebody and hid the body in.
Yeah.
It's just something that you spend a lot of time with. There are things
Something
like,
that's special
somebody,
to the spirit itself.
yeah, and then it lives furniture lives with people like today it's like IKEA and all this, and not a lot of people, well, there are a lot of people I guess who like the vintage and stuff like that, but today it's more like, yeah, let's get this furniture from IKEA, we get this buy the room at Rooms to Go, and it's all, so it's the old pieces though, and but there's always something, even pieces like that you get in modern times, and you just pour a lot of your energy into and stuff, they that
You
live
can
with
go
you.
to an antique store
Yeah.
and they have dials still from the 1800s
Yeah.
and earlier, like baby dials.
Yeah.
Well, that baby dial may be special to a child that died when they was a child. So
Exactly.
still attached to the baby doll because they were a child when they had it.
Yeah, and they still, well, and one of the most famous ones is Robert the doll,
Right.
that Misty talked about on a guest. She had a guest on about that. Robert the doll in Florida. Then there's the Annabelle doll, or what the real one, which was a Raggedy Ann or a Raggedy Andy doll. And yeah, I mean, I have some things from my childhood. Let's say, okay, there's a squirrel, there's a stuffed squirrel, and I talk about it in one of my books. Um, and I lost him once, and I tell the story about how I found him. He told me where he was. He was like, "I'm over here. I'm over here." I was for days. I was looking for Squirrely. I still have Squirrely. Squirrely is in is in a drawer in my room till right today. And I've even taken pictures of him with the book that I talk about him in. And that I told my daughter that squirrel goes when I go.
Mhm.
So how much, there were there's other people in previous generations and all, and there's people right now with such strong attachment to things, attachments to their possessions. It can be jewelry, it can be, stuffed animals, it can be dolls, it can be guns, it can be swords that you get, it can be all these pieces. Antiques, it's like, it's a hit and miss. And a lot of people feel that connection, right? Oh, I have to have this. I want to take it home. I've got to have it. They take it home and they begin pouring all of their into it, and then whoever gets it next. So, like, I don't buy a lot of antiques. I mean, there's vintage stuff that you can find like at thrift stores and stuff that's a little less, but a lot antiques I don't you know I would be very, very wary of. I don't like having a lot of other people's old furniture around me for obvious reasons.
Like
It's
looking into antique mirrors.
Yeah, no. And that dresser, I actually did keep the mirror from it. I detached the mirror, and for a long time I had it was a big round mirror that had etching around it, and eventually it broke in a move. And I think about it, at the time in my life when I moved and it broke. I think sometimes things around us take the hit. They take the bad luck hit that you would get. And
Mhm.
I mean, I was really partial. I carried that mirror from high school years all the way until in 2007. I kept it and I used it, and but there was a lot going on at that time, and it got broke in the move. And when I look back, it's like, well, it might have took a hit. It might have took something, whatever energy sent your way, whatever was going on at the time, took the bad luck instead of me getting it, and it broke. And I've actually, I've got a new one, but I mean, it's stuff like that. It saw a lot, not a lot. I mean, like, it doesn't know where bodies are buried or anything like that, No, but I mean, it saw a lot in those years. It was
Mhm.
with me all those years, and I guess it took the hit for me in that particular time in my life. So I felt really, really bad about it at first, but then later I was like, yeah, I mean, it's weird to say, but some things become like friends to you or family. And
Right.
that's how people feel about stuff, about their possessions. And this is why you have to be really careful of, if you get an antique, how you treat it and what you do to it, So that's what the guy found out when he made that movie, The Undeparted. Not only were there, the furniture, some of the pieces in there that that the woman and her husband had poured a lot of their energy into to restore and everything, those were found to have attachments. Not only that, but the people were being attached by the things that they had brought in there and some of the things that were already there. And yeah, I mean, it's the undeparted because antiques, people cling to things. Um,
Things you
are-
can't take with you.
right, right. But they'll stick around. They might come in and check on it,
Mhm.
um, and then leave. I mean, if it's with family members, then they might be happy and satisfied. I only have a couple. I only ever really have a couple of things that I'm not. I really don't like antique furniture. One time, I picked up one of those prayer benches. It's called an acolyte bench, which you see in
Yeah.
Catholic churches. They make the little altar boys kneel. Well, they
Right.
also use those in confessionals and at funeral homes. And I picked one up. And even though I had salted the whole thing, washed it with vinegar, put prayers in it and all that, that thing just felt wrong. It was like, no, I got to get rid of this. And ended up giving it away. I was like, I think it's not one of the good ones. Like, I don't think it saw mass. A lot of times it might just be a
A
confessional.
lot of emotion attached with something like that.
Yeah. And if it was in a confessional, imagine how much sin and guilt, was all poured into that. And so it didn't take me long. I was like, no, I don't like the feeling off of this. And I basically gave it away. I was like, no, I don't want that. And I gave it away to somebody who knew what to do with it, and wouldn't, not just like, here, do you want this? To some unknowing person.
Mhm.
I gave it away to somebody who knew, what to do with it. And this is everywhere. This can happen everywhere. That's why everybody has to be aware and spiritually aware, and especially people who are interested in paranormal, supernatural, going on these, ghost tours, going on paranormal investigations as like guests and stuff like that. I mean, people have to be aware that they're going into this basic stew of spirituality and active spirits, and it doesn't take much for somebody to say, "Hey, I like her energy. I'm going to her house." And
Yeah.
now they're in your house. And when you get one, it's bound to attract other ones, especially if you continue to paranormal investigate, continue in your, if you're doing into magic activities, if you're any kind of pagan or you're practicing any kind of witchcraft or whatever it is you're doing, you're going to accumulate more. And you have to be prepared for that. And sometimes all it takes is one, one really bad one, and your life can go to hell in a handbasket.
Mhm.
Well, the noise you've heard, folks, is not ghosts in my house. It's this big ass dog that I've got trying to navigate around. So it wasn't spooks. Um, and hopefully she won't be around next week. I mean, I don't know. I can't guarantee it since I'm doing it now from my home. So, but hey, everybody wants a everyone wants a Doberman pincher, right, to come in right in the middle of a serious talk and just knock everything over. So that's basically what you heard. So, although it could be ghosts, no, no, not. But so sorry about that if it distracted y'all or anything. But sometimes it's going to happen in the background, even though we try not to. So next week we're going to have psychic medium Daniel Blake, who is he your relative, Dean? He's your
Yes, it's cousin.
he's your cousin, right? So he's Bernadine's cousin who got his psychic abilities later, huh, in life. I mean, he
Yes.
had like a near death. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, he had a near death experience and came back a psychic. And I know it because he read me, like, even when you told him, I remember he said, I see somebody standing by you, and you said, you need to stop. Sometimes people don't want you to do that. It was
Yeah.
like, hi, my name's Danny, and you have three people standing by you. It's like, but he pegged it. He described my mother to a
Yeah.
T, my dead mother to a T. But I remember that. It's like, you stop. But I can understand when it's new, if something like that, you want to do it. But anyway, he'll be here next week, and he'll be talking about how all that happened and what he's doing with it now. So, but we thank you for listening, and we hope that you'll subscribe and share and like our channel and check out our other videos. And this has been the Supernatural Substation with your host, Alyne
On
Pustanio.
Facebook also.
And I'm sorry.
And find us on Facebook also.
Oh yeah, we're on Facebook. Find our Facebook page, and we're pretty soon going to be on other platforms. Right now, we're on YouTube. So hopefully, yeah, you'll share it if you like what you hear. Come back. Sometimes we just have these in-depth chats about different stuff that's happened to us or different topics. So you'll find us doing that too, and I hope you find it interesting. So it's time to say goodnight. Say goodnight, Bernadine.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, y'all. We'll see you next week.